That seat is for my real daughter. Get out. My father said it in front of 80 people at his retirement party. Then he put both hands on my shoulders and shoved. I didn't stumble. I dropped. My heel clipped the edge of the platform, and I hit the hardwood hard enough to feel it in my teeth. The sound carried sharp, final, my mother's navy coat. The one she wore to her last anniversary dinner before the cancer took her, tore along the seam near my side. I wore it for him. I didn't know I was walking into the night he decided I didn't exist. I stayed where I landed for a second. Not because I couldn't get up, because I needed to see his face. 63 years old, shoulders still square, posture still exact, no hesitation, no doubt, just certainty. Behind him, Brooke stepped forward like she'd been waiting for the cue. She slid into the empty chair at the head table, the seat I had just crossed the room to reach, and rested her hand on his arm like it belonged there. "It's okay. Dad," she said softly, "I'm here. Real daughter." The room didn't move. 80 people, colleagues, relatives, men who'd worked under him for decades, sat frozen with glasses midair and forks halfway to their mouths. Nobody said a word. I felt the floor through the coat. Cold, solid, honest. My hand pressed against the wood as I pushed myself up. Slow, controlled, no rush. Because what my father didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that the real daughter he just gave my seat to had been stealing from him for 8 months. And my wife was standing 20 feet away, with the proof sitting inside her jacket pocket. I almost walked out. One more step, and I would have. Then I heard a chair move behind me. Not mine, hers. Before I go any further, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if this story feels real to you. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I always read them. I want to know where you're listening from. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 32 years old. And this is the story of the night I almost lost my father for good. Not because he pushed me, not because of what he said in that room, but because for 3 years before that night, he chose to believe a version of me that didn't exist. And I let him. I didn't fight. I didn't force answers. I didn't show up and break down his door. I stepped back and told myself it was respect. It wasn't. It was distance, the kind that gives someone else room to rewrite everything. Let me take you back 3 years before that party, back to when things didn't feel broken yet. My father, Daniel Cole, spent 35 years as a foreman at a steel fabrication plant outside Pittsburgh. He clocked in at 6, clocked out at 4, and measured time in finished work, not hours. Saturdays were never days off. They were field days. He'd take me with him to job sites. I wore boots too big for my feet and a hard hat that slid down over my eyes. He didn't explain things the way teachers did. He pointed. "See that beam," he'd say. "That one carries more than it looks like." I was 9. I didn't understand load distribution or stress points, but I watched where he looked. Years later, when I became a structural engineer, I realized he'd been teaching me how to see what holds everything up, long before I knew what to call it. My mother, Sarah, was an ER nurse. Night shifts, 12 hours at a time. She'd still be home when I got off the school bus, still awake, still moving. She smelled like antiseptic and peppermint gum. She cooked like she didn't believe in recipes, and sang like no one had ever told her she couldn't. Our house was small, kitchen even smaller, but there was a table in the center my dad built the year I was born. Solid oak, 3 chairs, one for him, one for her, one for me. No one extra, no one missing, he used to say. It wasn't a rule, it was a fact. My mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer when I was 11. She didn't stop working right away. That's the part I remember most, not the diagnosis, not the hospital rooms. The way she kept showing up like nothing had changed. 14 months later, she was gone. I was 12. My father didn't break in front of me, if he did. It was somewhere I couldn't see. He kept going to work, kept making dinner, kept sitting at that table. Her chair stayed empty. I never asked him to leave it that way. He never explained why he didn't. For 3 years. It was just the two of us. The house was quiet in a way that settled into your bones. But it was ours. No noise we didn't understand. No presence that didn't belong. We didn't talk about her much. We didn't have to. She was in the routines. In the way he set 3 plates down before putting one back. In the way he paused at the hallway, where her photo still hung. We carried it without saying it, and it held. Looking back, that was the last time everything was still aligned, load balanced, nothing missing, even with the empty chair. After that, things didn't collapse all at once. They shifted, and once something shifts at the foundation, everything above it starts to follow. I just didn't see it yet. My father told me about her on a Tuesday night. We were sitting at the oak table, 2 plates, 2 chairs in use, one still empty. "I met someone," he said. He didn't look up when he said it, just kept his eyes on the plate. moving food around like he was lining something up in his head. "She's not replacing your mother." I nodded. I know. I believed him. Not because I understood what that meant, but because he said it like a rule. And my father didn't break rules. He made himself. Her name was Victoria Hale. She came into the house 2 weeks later, wearing a cream-colored coat and a smile that looked like it had been practiced in a mirror until it didn't move unless she wanted it to. Everything about her was controlled. Voice, posture, timing. She brought a bottle of wine that didn't belong in our kitchen. With her was her daughter, Lila, 2 years younger than me, quiet at first, watching everything the way I used to on job sites, taking inventory. Dinner that night felt staged, not fake, just adjusted, like someone had changed the measurements without telling the structure. Victoria asked me about school, about engineering. She complimented the curtains my mom had picked out. She moved through the house like she was mapping it in real time. Nothing she did was wrong. That was the problem. She offered to help me practice driving a week later. I told her I already had my permit. She smiled, said that was great, and let it go. No pressure, no friction. My father liked that. They got married when I was 15. Small ceremony, no extended family, no real discussion. It happened the way a decision happens when it's already been made. Victoria wore ivory, clean lines, minimal jewelry. I wore a dark suit I'd had since middle school. Sleeves a little too short, shoulders a little tight. No one commented on it, no one adjusted it. Lila stood next to her mother, composed, attentive. She knew where to stand without being told. Victoria moved into the house like it had always been hers. At first, nothing changed in a way you could point to. Same walls, same layout, same routines. But there was a new presence at the table. A fourth chair pulled in without anyone saying where it came from. Conversation shifted. Not louder, just different. Victoria didn't take space. She organized it. She listened, more than she spoke. And when she did speak, it was measured, reasonable. Hard to argue with without sounding unreasonable yourself. My father relaxed around her, in a way I hadn't seen since before my mom got sick. Less tension in his shoulders. Less silence at the table. That mattered. It made everything else easier to ignore if something felt off. It wasn't enough to challenge. Not yet, because nothing had been taken. Nothing had been removed. Everything still looked intact. From the outside. It worked, and that's how it started. It didn't happen all at once. Nothing you could point to and say, that's the moment it changed. It was smaller than that. Quieter. 6 months after the wedding. The oak table was gone. I came downstairs one morning, and there was a marble dining set in its place. Clean edges, polished surface, 4 matching chairs. Something more modern, Victoria said, smoothing a linen runner across the center like she was finishing a job. My father nodded. Easier to maintain. The oak table was in the garage. I didn't say anything. First mistake. The next shift came on Thanksgiving. I walked into the kitchen and stopped. My chair, the one my dad had carved my initials into when I was 8, was gone. Matching set. Victoria said again, like it explained everything. Lila was already seated. She smiled at me, casual. Like there was nothing to notice. I took a different chair. Didn't say anything. Second mistake. By winter, Lila was living with us full-time. Her things moved in piece by piece. Clothes first, then books, then furniture. By spring, it wasn't temporary anymore. She started calling him Dad. The first time she said it, my father froze for half a second. Then his face softened. He put his hand on her shoulder. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm here." I was standing in the doorway. I didn't move, didn't say anything. Third mistake. After that, things started disappearing. Not directly, not aggressively, just relocated. My mom's photos moved from the living room to the hallway. Then, from the hallway to a shelf. Then, from the shelf to the basement. Her recipe box vanished from the kitchen counter. The garden she planted black-eyed Susans. Coneflowers. Things that came back every year was pulled out and replaced with ornamental grass that didn't bloom. Cleaner look, Victoria said. My father agreed. By the time I left for college at 18, the house didn't feel like it had been taken. It felt like it had been updated. That's the word she used. Updated. I came back during breaks, and something new was always different. Subtle. Justifiable. My room was the last thing to go. Second year in. I came home for a week and found a yoga mat where my bed used to be. Mirrors on the wall. Soft lighting. No trace of me. My online classes need a quiet space, Lila said when I asked. Victoria pointed to 3 cardboard boxes in the garage. Your things are safe. They were stacked next to the oak table. Same place everything that used to belong ended up. I stood there for a minute, looked at the table, the boxes, the dust settling on both. Then I closed the garage door, didn't argue, didn't ask for anything back. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight, that my father would notice eventually, that this was temporary. I was wrong on all 3, because this wasn't about furniture, it was about position. And by the time I understood that, mine was already gone. I met Emily Carter at a structural engineering conference in Denver when I was 25. She wasn't in my field. She was presenting on financial forensics and construction fraud, how numbers get manipulated when projects start bleeding money. I sat through her session because it sounded adjacent enough to matter. It was. She broke down a case where a subcontractor had been inflating material costs through layered invoices. No emotion, no theatrics, just facts, lined up in a way that made the outcome inevitable. After the talk, I asked one question. We ended up talking for 3 hours about how buildings fail, about how numbers lie, about how both leave patterns if you know where to look. She didn't fill silence, didn't rush to respond. She listened, then answered exactly what was asked. Nothing extra. I respected that. We kept in touch. Calls turned into visits. Visits turned into something steady. There was no moment where it shifted. It just held. We got married 2 years later at a courthouse. 12 people. No staging. No production. My father came. He stood next to me, not saying much, just present. When it was over, he shook Emily's hand, then pulled me in for a quick, firm hug. "Your mom would have liked her," he said. That was the last clean sentence he said to me. Victoria came too. She stayed through the ceremony, smiled in the photos, and left before the toasts. Said she had a headache. Emily noticed. She didn't comment on it. That was her way. She saw everything. Logged it, waited. 4 years passed. We built a life that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. Small apartment at first, then a house. Work that made sense. Structure that held. Emily never pushed me about my family. She asked questions when they mattered. Let silence sit when it didn't. She knew something was off. She didn't force it open, but she paid attention. That mattered more, because when things finally surfaced, when the numbers didn't line up, when the documents started to show patterns that weren't accidental, she was already in position to see it clearly. Not as my wife, as someone who understood systems, and how they get manipulated without anyone noticing until it's too late. Looking back, she wasn't just support. She was alignment. The one person in the room who would recognize the difference between a mistake and a pattern. And when the pattern finally broke the surface, she was the one holding it in her hands. 3 years before the retirement party, I was on a bridge inspection job in eastern Kentucky when December caught up to me. The project was behind schedule. The expansion joints had been installed wrong, cheap materials, bad welds, load paths compromised in ways that don't show up until something fails under pressure, the kind of oversight that gets people killed if you sign off on it. I wasn't leaving until it was fixed. I called my father on December 23rd. Voicemail. "Hey, I'm stuck on site. I won't make it home for Christmas. I'll come up in January. Call me back." I kept it short. He didn't call. Christmas morning, I sent a text. "Merry Christmas. I'll make it up when I'm back. Love you." No reply. New Year's Day, I called again. Voicemail. I tried the house line. Victoria answered. Her voice was even, controlled. "He doesn't want to talk right now. You should respect that." There was no pause in it, no hesitation. Just a statement. I said okay, and I did. I gave it a week, then another, then I called again, and again, every Sunday, mostly, sometimes midweek, if something felt off enough to justify it. I didn't leave long messages, didn't push, didn't demand anything, just checked in. Weeks turned into months, months into a year, then 2, then 3. 147 calls, 42 texts, no response, not one. Twice. I drove up, both times. Victoria met me at the door before I could knock twice. Same posture, same tone. "He doesn't want to see you. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I could have pushed past her. I didn't. If my father didn't want to see me, I wasn't going to force it in his own house. That was the line. I held it. I told myself it was respect. Truth was, it was pride. I wasn't going to stand on a doorstep and argue for a place I used to have. So I stepped back, let the silence sit, let him choose, and he chose nothing, or at least, that's what I thought. What I didn't know, what I couldn't see from job sites and phone screens and miles of distance, was that the silence wasn't empty. It was managed, filtered, directed, and every call I made didn't disappear. It just never reached him. 8 weeks before the retirement party, Emily got a phone call from a number she didn't recognize. She stepped into the other room to take it, closed the door behind her. When she came back, she didn't say anything right away, just stood there for a second, like she was deciding what mattered enough to bring up. "Someone from your father's company," she said finally. "Benefits administration. Her name's Donna Weber. What did she want?" She said there's paperwork that doesn't make sense. I waited. Emily didn't elaborate. That was intentional. If it wasn't verified, she wasn't going to build a story around it. "Do we need to do anything?" I asked. "Not yet," she said. "I need to look at something first." That was the end of it. She didn't push it further. I didn't ask. A week later, an email showed up in my work inbox. Not from my father, not from Victoria, from an event coordinator, subject line retirement celebration, Daniel Cole formal language, corporate tone, mass distribution. You are cordially invited to celebrate 35 years of service. Location Stonebridge Country Club time Saturday, 6 p.m. black tie optional. I stared at it longer than I should have. 3 years without a call, and this is how I hear from him, through a mailing list. Emily walked into the kitchen, saw the screen, and set her coffee down across from me. You're going, she said. It wasn't a question. He hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Exactly. I looked back at the email. A room full of people, a controlled environment, public. Emily didn't say anything else, but I could hear the rest of it. If there were answers, they'd be there. I'm going, I said. No discussion after that. The decision was already made. The only thing left was what I'd walk in wearing. I didn't own anything that fit the setting, so I opened the closet I hadn't touched in years. The garment bag was still there. Inside, my mother's navy coat. She wore it to their 20th anniversary dinner, the last one before the diagnosis. Wool, clean lines, still carried a faint trace of her perfume. If you got close enough, I put it on. It fit. Emily watched from the doorway. Didn't comment. She didn't need to. We drove out the night of the event. Stonebridge Country Club sat behind a gated drive. Manicured grounds stretching out under low evening light. Valet at the entrance. Glass doors. Everything polished. Inside. Chandeliers. White linens. A stage set for recognition. My father's name printed across a mounted board near the entrance. 35 years. I stood there for a second. Then I walked in. The seating chart was set up just inside the entrance. Whiteboard. Black lettering, names arranged in clean columns. I scanned the head table first. Daniel Cole, Victoria Cole, Lila Hale. 3 senior executives, no space left. I moved down the list. Nothing. My name wasn't anywhere. Not misspelled, not misplaced. Just not there. Behind me, the room filled with movement. Glasses clinking. Voices layered over one another. The kind of noise that covers absence if you let it. I didn't turn around. I kept looking until there was nothing left to find. Emily stepped up beside me. Check the overflow tables, she said quietly. There was a smaller list printed off to the side. Not centered, not meant to be seen first. 2 names, ours. No table number, no placement, just assigned. We followed the layout into the main hall. The head table sat elevated at the far end of the room. Not high, just enough to create separation. A stage, without calling itself one. Emily and I were guided by a server, not by family, to a 2-seat table pushed against the back wall, half hidden behind a support column, close enough to the service corridor that you could hear plates moving before you saw them. No name cards, no centerpiece, just 2 chairs and a breadbasket. I sat. Emily sat across from me. Neither of us touched the food. From there, I could see my father. He was already seated at the head table, suit pressed, watch catching light under the chandelier. He looked settled, like everything had been arranged the way it was supposed to be. Lila sat to his right, close, leaning in, hand resting on his arm like it had always been there. She looked like she belonged. My father turned his head. Our eyes met. 1 second, that's all it took. No recognition, no hesitation. He looked away, back to the conversation, back to the table where I didn't exist. A hand touched my shoulder. I turned. My aunt, Carol. She'd crossed the room to get to us, weaving through tables without breaking stride. I'm glad you came, she said under her breath. Her grip tightened slightly. They changed his papers. She let that sit there. Then she moved on before I could ask anything else. At the front of the room, Victoria stepped up to the podium. She tapped the microphone twice. The room settled. Good evening, everyone. Her voice carried easily, controlled, warm. Tonight, we celebrate an incredible man. A husband, a father, applause. The screen behind her lit up. Slideshow, photos rolled one after another. My father on job sites. My father shaking hands. My father receiving awards. Then the family images. Victoria and my father at a vineyard. Lila and my father at a game. The 3 of them on the porch of the house I grew up in. Photo after photo. No trace of my mother, no trace of me. 35 years compressed into curated memory. Edited, replaced. Victoria smiled as the final image faded. And I want to give special recognition to Daniel's daughter. Lila, his pride and joy. Lila stood, waved. Applause followed. I didn't move. Emily's hand found mine under the table. Firm, steady. A man approached one of my father's longtime colleagues. He looked at me, confused. Aren't you Ethan? He asked. Dan used to talk about you all the time. Your engineering license, your projects. What happened? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out because I didn't know. Not really. I'm here to find out, I said finally. Dinner service started. Conversations resumed like nothing had shifted. Victoria returned to the head table, placed her hand on my father's shoulder. Claim. I set my napkin down, stood up. Emily looked at me. You sure I didn't drive 4 hours to sit in the back? I walked, straight through the center of the room, past tables that went quiet as I passed, past people, pretending not to look. 80 pairs of eyes tracking movement, without acknowledging it. The platform rose in front of me, 6 inches. Enough. I stepped up. Lila saw me first. Her smile broke. There was one empty chair at the far end of the table. I rested my hand on the back of it. Dad. He looked up, jaw tight. It's been 3 years, I said. We need to talk. Silence settled across the table. Victoria leaned in, whispered something in his ear. I couldn't hear it. I didn't need to. I saw the effect. My father stood. For a second, I thought he might close the distance. Instead, his hands came up, pressed against my shoulders, and pushed. I went backward off the platform, hit the floor, hard. The seam of my mother's coat tore along the side. A quiet rip. That seat is for my real daughter, he said. His voice cut through the entire room. You lost the right to sit here. Get out. Behind him, Lila stepped into the space I left, sat down, like it had always been hers. It's okay. Dad, she said, her hand already on his arm. He can't hurt you anymore. No one moved, no one spoke. I sat there on the hardwood, feeling the tear in the coat, the weight of 80 witnesses choosing silence. I reached down, picked up what had fallen from my pocket. A photograph, me at 5, sitting on his shoulders at a job site, hard hat too big, both of us laughing. I looked at it once, then back at him. No anger, just clarity. I put my hand on the floor and started to stand, one step from walking out and ending it there. Then I heard a chair move, not mine, Emily's. Emily didn't rush. She stood up from the back table, buttoned her jacket, and adjusted her cuffs, with the same precise movement I'd seen 100 times before presentations. It wasn't nervous, it was preparation. Victoria noticed first. Her eyes tracked Emily crossing the room, and for half a second, something in her expression slipped. Not much, just enough. Then it was gone. Emily, she called, voice smooth, carrying just enough to reach the room. I think it's best if you take Ethan home. He's had a long night. Emily didn't look at her. She walked straight to me and offered her hand. I took it. She pulled me up, steady, controlled. Her eyes moved once to the tear in my mother's coat. Her jaw tightened. Then it was gone. She turned toward the head table. Mr. Cole, she said. Her voice was level, conversational, the tone you use, in a room where facts matter more than volume. I'm Emily, your son's wife, the son you just pushed to the floor. My father's expression hardened. I don't have anything to say to you. Take him and leave. I will, she said, right after you answer one question. A pause. When was the last time you personally checked your phone messages? Confusion flickered across his face. What? It's a simple question. Victoria stepped forward. Too fast. This is not the time or place. Emily didn't look at her. This is exactly the time. The room shifted. Not loud. Just a change in attention. Conversations thinning out. People listening without pretending not to. Emily reached into her jacket and pulled out a thick manila envelope. She set it on the table in front of my father. Careful, deliberate. Before we go, she said, I think you should see this. Victoria moved between them, placing a hand on my father's arm, angling her body to block his view. Richard Daniel, don't engage. They're trying to turn this into something it's not. Emily waited. Didn't push, didn't raise her voice. Just let the moment sit. My father looked at the envelope, then at Victoria, then back at the envelope. What is this? He asked. Your retirement, Emily said. That landed, not emotionally, practically. He reached past Victoria and opened it. Inside were documents. 2 forms placed side by side. He pulled them out, set them on the table, linen surface, white, clean. The contrast made the difference between them obvious, even from where I stood. 8 months ago, Emily said, a change was submitted to your 401k and pension beneficiary designations. Victoria's voice cut in. This is fabricated. She printed those herself. Emily ignored her. The original form, she continued, lists Ethan Cole at 50% and the estate of Sarah Cole at 50%. My father's eyes moved to the left document. Recognition. That's right, he said slowly. The updated form, Emily said, lists Lila Hale as sole beneficiary. 100%. Silence. My father picked up the second form, studied it, turned it slightly, like angle would change what he was seeing. I didn't sign this, he said. Victoria stepped closer. You did? You just don't remember. You've been under a lot of stress. I know how I signed my name. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut. He held the paper closer. The R is wrong, he said. I looped the R. This one's straight. He set it down. This isn't mine. Emily nodded once. I know. Victoria tried again. Softer this time. Daniel, please. They're confusing you. This is what they do. A chair moved from the back of the room. Everyone turned. Donna Weber, mid-50s, practical, controlled, the kind of presence that doesn't need attention to carry authority. She walked forward with a leather folio in her hand. I think I should clarify something, she said. Victoria turned sharply. This is a private matter. Donna didn't slow down. It stopped being private when company documents were altered. The room went still again. Donna opened her folio. I've handled Mr. Cole's benefits for 22 years, she said. 8 months ago, a change request was submitted via email. That's unusual. Mr. Cole has never submitted paperwork electronically. He always does it in person. My father nodded slowly. That's right. The email came from a personal account. Not his company address. The signature didn't match records. I flagged it to HR. Victoria's composure cracked at the edges. You had no right to contact anyone outside. I had an obligation, Donna said calmly. I contacted Emily because she's listed as next of kin. Emily reached back into the envelope and pulled out another set of papers. Phone records. She placed them next to the forms. Your wife told you your son stopped calling, she said. My father didn't respond. These are his call logs. He picked them up. Rows of numbers, dates, times, pattern, regular, consistent. 147 calls, Emily said. 42 text messages. Over 3 years. My father's hand trembled slightly. That's not possible, he said. My phone never check it, Emily said. Settings, blocked contacts. A long pause. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, unlocked it, moved through the menus slower than usual, like each step mattered. He found it. Blocked contacts. One number. Mine. He looked up at Victoria. You blocked him. Her mouth opened, closed. No immediate answer. You blocked my son. The room held its breath. Victoria straightened, dropped the softness. Yes, she said, because he was toxic. He was trying to control you, turn you against. He was calling me, her voice sharpened. You were better off without the confusion, without him pulling you back into the past. That's my son. It broke on the word, not loud, but final. The structure shifted. Lila stood up abruptly. This is a setup, she said. He's lying. Emily didn't look at her. You have approximately $220,000 in outstanding debt from your last business venture, she said. Do you want me to continue? Lila froze. Color drained from her face. Victoria stepped forward, anger replacing control. Enough. Emily didn't move. Someone submitted those forms to redirect your retirement assets, she said to my father. If it hadn't been flagged, everything you earned over 35 years would have transferred out of your name. My father looked back at the documents, then at Victoria. You forged my name, he said. Silence. No performance left. No framing. Just fact. Victoria exhaled. You don't understand, she said. I was protecting our family. Lila needed. You stole from me. I redirected. You erased my son. That landed harder. Victoria didn't answer, because there wasn't one. From across the room, my Aunt Carol spoke. I tried to tell you, she said, for years. My father didn't look at her. He was still staring at the papers, at the phone, at the space where everything he thought was stable had shifted underneath him. Emily stepped back, didn't press further. She didn't need to. Everything was already in place. All that was left was for him to decide what to do with it. My father sat down slowly, not like a man taking a seat, like a man recalculating where the ground was. His phone stayed in his hand, the blocked contact screen still open, my number sitting there, one entry. 3 years of silence reduced to a single line. The documents were spread in front of him. 2 forms, one real, one forged. 35 years of work between them. The room didn't move. 80 people still watching. But it was different now. Not curiosity, not discomfort. Recognition. He stood again. Not fast, not dramatic, just deliberate. He stepped off the platform and walked across the room toward me. No one spoke. No one got in his way. Victoria called after him. Daniel, stop. You're making a mistake. He didn't turn. He stopped 3 feet in front of me, close enough to see everything he wasn't saying. His eyes dropped to my coat, the tear along the seam. The navy fabric my mother had worn 20 years ago. That was your mother's, he said. Yeah, you wore it here, for you. Something shifted in his face. Not all at once. Not clean. Like pressure finally giving somewhere it couldn't hold anymore. He looked at his hands. The same hands that pushed me. I shoved you. He said, yes, in front of everyone. Yes. He nodded once. Then he turned. Just enough to face the room. I owe my son an apology, he said, his voice carried. Not forced, not amplified, just clear, for tonight, and for the last 3 years. Silence settled again, but it wasn't empty anymore. I believed something that wasn't true. He continued, because it was easier than asking questions I didn't want answers to. He didn't look at Victoria. He didn't need to. I let someone tell me my son stopped showing up, that he didn't care, that he chose to walk away. His hand tightened around the phone. He didn't. A pause. He called me 147 times. That number landed. You could feel it move through the room. I didn't answer once. He turned back to me. I'm sorry. No extra words. No explanation wrapped around it. Just that. I held his gaze. Didn't step forward. Didn't close the distance for him. I hear you, I said. He nodded, like that mattered. It's a start, I added. Another nod, small, controlled, because that's what it was. Not resolution, not repair. A starting point, behind him. Victoria stepped forward, heels sharp against the floor. This is ridiculous, she said, louder now. Can't anyone see what's happening? This was planned. They came here to humiliate you. My father didn't turn. No, he said. You planned this. That stopped her. The seating chart, the slideshow, removing every picture of him, of his mother. He let that sit. You made sure he didn't exist in this room. Victoria's composure slipped, just enough. I was protecting you from my own son. He was pulling you backward. He was calling me. That ended it. Not loud, final. Lila stood at the edge of the platform, clutching her bag. Mom, she said quietly, stop. Victoria turned to her. You don't understand, I do. Lila looked at me then, not defensive, not confident, just stripped down to something honest. I didn't know about the signature, she said. I swear. I watched her, waited. But you knew about the calls. I said. A pause. 3 seconds. Enough. She didn't answer right away. I wanted a father, she said finally. Mine left when I was 6. Your dad was the first one who stayed. I let that sit. Because I understood it. And understanding it didn't make it right. You don't get one by replacing someone else, I said. She nodded, tight. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. Victoria called after her. Lila, she didn't stop. The doors closed behind her. Victoria stood alone, for the first time since she walked into our lives. No positioning, no control, just exposure. My father finally looked at her. You need to leave, he said. This is my life too. No, he said. This was my retirement. And you turned it into something else. A beat. We'll talk tomorrow. With a lawyer. That landed harder than anything else. Victoria didn't argue. Not this time. She picked up her bag, adjusted her scarf out of habit, even though there was nothing left to control. At the door, she stopped, looked at me. No performance left. Just anger. Raw. Unfiltered. I held her gaze. Didn't respond. Didn't need to. After a second, she left. The room exhaled. Conversation started again. Low and uncertain. People moving. Processing. Trying to return to something normal. There wasn't one. My father walked back to the head table, stopped, looked at the empty chair, then at me. That seat was yours, he said. I just forgot. He didn't gesture. He pulled it out. I stepped forward, sat down, not because everything was fixed, because I chose not to walk away. That mattered. The rest of the night dissolved. People came up to him, shook his hand, said things that didn't directly address what happened, but acknowledged it anyway. Donna waited until the room thinned. Mr. Cole, she said, I'll be filing a formal report Monday. Your accounts will be frozen until everything is verified. He nodded. Do it. Also, she added, this wasn't the first attempt. There was a request 2 years ago to add Lila to your life insurance. I rejected it. He closed his eyes briefly. 2 years. Minimum, she said. Emily stood beside me, quiet, steady. Once it was over, we left. The drive home was silent for the first 20 minutes. Fields passing in the dark, road steady under the tires. I looked down at the tear in the coat, ran my thumb along the seam. Some things you fix. Some things you leave as they are. You knew, I said. For 2 weeks. Emily answered. And before that, Donna called 2 months ago. I needed to verify everything before bringing it to him. I nodded. That tracked. I wasn't going to give you something that might fall apart, she added. That tracked too. A week later. HR confirmed the fraud. Signature mismatch. Email traceable back to Victoria. My father's original beneficiary designations were restored. Ethan Cole, 50%. Estate of Sarah Cole, 50%. The way it was supposed to be. He filed for divorce that week. No negotiation, no delay. Victoria was out of the house before the paperwork settled. Lila sent me an email, short. She knew about the calls. She didn't stop it. I read it, didn't respond. Not out of anger, out of accuracy. I didn't have the right words yet. My father called me the following Saturday. First call in 3 years. We didn't say anything for the first 10 seconds. Familiar silence. I don't know how to fix this, he said. You don't. I answered. You start. A pause. I'm wearing the watch you gave me, he said. The Timex. $30 from a department store. I kept it. He added. Good, I said. Keep it on. 2 weeks after the party, I drove back to the house. Emily stayed in the car. Take your time, she said. The door was unlocked. Inside felt different, not new, not restored, in transition. The marble table was gone. The oak table was back in the center of the kitchen. Refinished, darker grain, same structure. My chair was there, initials still carved into the back. Ethan. The leg had been repaired. Not perfectly. Good enough. Some marks don't come out. My father stood in the doorway. Some of it won't go back the way it was, he said. Yeah, I answered. That's fine. He poured coffee, set 2 mugs on the table. No ceremony, just action. On the wall behind him, my mother's photo was back, where it belonged. I glanced at his phone on the table. Settings open, blocked contacts, empty. He'd figured it out. We didn't talk about everything that day. Didn't need to. Sometimes sitting at the same table is enough to start. People ask if I forgave him. That's not how it works. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's repetition. Some days it's there. Some days it isn't. What matters is what you do with it. I didn't forget what happened. He didn't either. But it's not the whole structure. Just a section that failed and got rebuilt. Victoria is gone. No share of his retirement. Investigation pending. Lila is paying off her debt on her own. Emily is still exactly who she was that night. Steady, precise, unmoved by noise. My father answers his phone now, every time. The oak table has 4 chairs, not 3, not more, just enough for the people who stayed. Here's what I learned. Silence doesn't always mean strength. Sometimes it just gives someone else space to rewrite your place in their life, but chasing someone who's already decided you don't belong, that's not strength either. There's a line. You don't always see it in time. I didn't. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, the distance, the silence, the seat that isn't yours anymore, pay attention to that. Don't wait 3 years. And don't fight for something that's already been replaced. Know the difference. That's the whole thing. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm a structural engineer. I build things that are meant to hold when pressure hits. This one almost didn't, but it didn't collapse. It shifted, and we rebuilt from there. Before you go, if you could say one honest thing to the person who hurt you the most, what would it be? Not to fix it, just to say it. Write it in the comments. I read all of them. This story is inspired by real-life situations, but has been modified for storytelling purposes.